Quentin Tarantino's third film starring the great Pam Grier, Samuel L. Jackson, Robert Forster, Robert De Niro, and Bridget Fonda is a certified gem. Here, Tarantino and De Niro talk about Jackie Brown. Enjoy.
Kind of describe Lewis in a metaphoric sense, and I thought you really captured that. And one of the things that I described that his posture was like a pile of dirty clothes. And you actually really got that. But there was also another aspect that I thought that you got about Lewis that I thought was really interesting, because the book that Jackie Brown is based on is called Rum Punch, and it's a sequel to a book that Elmer Leonard had written years earlier called The Switch. And so in The Switch, you meet the characters of Lewis and Ordell and Melanie. And that's why there's that little moment where Melanie, mentions that she knows Lewis. And the Lewis in that book is like 15 years earlier, and he's a sharp cat.
Yeah.
He's been in jail before, but he's still sharp. He's right on it. And so it's a trick to pull off what you had to pull off in this movie, because Lewis isn't dumb. He's just spent a little too much time in prison. Can you talk just a little bit about maybe some of the details that you put together to help kind of create the character?
Well, I like the character of Lewis, and like you say, he didn't have to say much. It was his reaction. He was a little slow, but that's what was attractive to me about the character, and that was it. Just to bear that in mind when we were doing scenes. You were great. You created the character, I guess, from Elmore Leonard. So I go to, but and I hadn't read the book.
How out of it and stoned you are, right, when they're trying to talk, when they're having the whole meeting about the money exchange, and you're all caught up in the phone cord, and like you realize that was like a comedy scene going on right inside of there, and you played it as a comedian.
I don't remember whether you told me to do that or we decided or however that arrived.
I really think it was you. I think it was a situation where you just, I can do a little bit more here.
Yeah.
I can have my own little bit going on while they're doing the narrative.
Yeah, no, that kind of stuff is fun to do as an actor. So
You've worked with some of the most famous directors that there is, as a matter of fact. There's a book called American Film Now by James Monaco, and in it, because of all the directors that you worked with in the 70s and in the late 60s, he theorizes that because of all those filmmakers that you work with, that you were the most, that you were the biggest filmmaker of the 70s by virtue of your work with Coppola, by virtue of your work with Scorsese, by virtue of your work with Elia Kazan, by virtue of your work with Brian De Palma. Now, the thing is, I remember asking you once, when you worked with directors, do you sweat about, that they use take 6 as opposed to take 4 or whatever? And you said something like, well, if I don't trust the guy that much, then, I really shouldn't be working with him. But the thing is, when it comes to directors, especially if you never worked with them before, it is a bit like a blind marriage. You're gonna get into it, and you're gonna find out how it is. So, in that regard, what are some of the things that a director could do for you to lose respect for their process?
Once I'm in it, I'm in it, and excuse me. I don't look. There are takes. You look at some movies, I get more involved with the dailies and everything, look at takes, and then I point this out or that to the director, and it does matter, and they understand it. I explain why, but at other times I just let it go. I'll see the whole thing. I'll I'll remember that I did a particular take, and I'll say, well, what happened with that? And they might have a very logical reason why it was not able to be used, in which there are so many varying reasons why. Well, something wasn't matching here or there, God knows. So other times I just have to, my point I was trying to make earlier is that once I'm in it with them. I know enough. I'm not gonna get to a point where we don't agree.
About Mr. Niro particularly. Okay, so in a movie you have your prop day where you show up and you look at like the character's gonna wear a watch, so they have a whole bunch of watches. Character's gonna wear rings, so they have a bunch of rings. All that kind of money clip, whatever the deal is, wallets. And so in the case of Jackie Brown, Robert wanted me to walk with him as we went walking through the props. So first thing we look at is like a bunch of watches. And then he goes, okay, so here are the watches. There's like 12 of them. And I go, hey, I like this one right here. Okay, well, that was way too fucking fast.
Was that, I didn't.
No, that's me saying that, all right? That's me saying, oh, I love this one right here. Okay, no, that's, whoa, that's way too fast. All right? It's like, no, we should look at them, we think about it for a little bit, we can have a discussion about it, if there needs to be a discussion, but that was just too fast. And then what I realized, and now part of the thing about it is like especially at the time I'm doing Jackie Brown, I'm like a big shuck-up soda can, all right? I'm just so excited about everything I'm doing and about what's going on. And I figure as a director, I have to have an answer. It doesn't need to be the right answer, it's just an answer is good. But then what I learned with Robert at that point is, shut the fuck up. Let Robert look at them, let him ask questions, let him do whatever, and if I say nothing, at some point, he'll say, so what do you think? And then it was actually taken seriously what I had to say.
No, I work with directors a lot. I always like to have the director with me. I like the writer there too, especially if the writer is a good writer, or it could be the writer-director. Because, we could say, looking at watches as an example, I might say, well, I could be this one, that one, I don't know. What do you think? You tell me. Yeah, okay, that's it. I'm happy with
I see him as a digital guy.
Yeah. I don't want to get stuck on what I call pizzicaca thing.
Yeah.
Still have. You don't want to get in, just let's do it. That's an important thing, but there are much more important things we have to worry about. So we want to, and it also gives us a chance to show that we both kind of agree or respect the opinion of the other person, whether it's me or you, and then you say, yeah, let's do that. Fine, you're happy. Let's
it's
get
the thing is like everything doesn't need a discussion, but if a character's discussion comes out of talking about cufflinks,
yes,
that could be
absolutely.
That could actually be a profound discussion.
Yes, it could relate. You don't know whatever the script is. It could relate more than you actually realize at that moment to something down the line, another scene, or whatever it comes out. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm just yanking this out of the air right now, and I don't think it's reflected in the film. But like for instance, Lewis's watch could have been like one of those old digital kind of watches, but when he got it, it was new. But then he went to jail, and then they gave it back to him, and so he still thinks he's wearing this new watch, where it's completely out of date. But in that same vein, and this will be the last thing I think, is this is more of a story about me talking about you. When I and this is not a thing where I tricked you. I knew. I knew a bit of your methodology, so I prepared for your methodology. When I was doing, before I did Reservoir Dogs, I was up at the Sundance Institute, and I was working on some scenes from it, and one of the resource directors there was Ula Grossbard, who you've worked with a couple of times, and a fantastic theater director. Anyway, so I'm sitting here talking to him, and he's asking me some questions about the script. And then one of the things he says, he goes, well, you're thinking in the terms of the big picture, Quentin. I mean, you think because you're the writer, you know everything. You think you're God, but you need to dive down even deeper into some of these characters. And he used you as an example. He said, look, once Bobby figures out the shoes that a character wears, that's a big part of the characterization. Whatever shoes he decides to wear, what he chooses to wear as his footwear. Once he kind of figures that out, that goes a long way to him feeling like he has a handle on the character. So, when we were talking about Jackie Brown, we were kind of going back and forth between the Max Cherry character and the Lewis character. And it was finally decided that we go with the Lewis character. And when we finally, officially switched horses, and now we are officially talking about Lewis, as if on cue, what Ulu Grossbard said 4 years earlier happened. Bobby looks at me and goes, what kind of shoes does he wear? Well, I had an answer. I go, well, the shoes he wears are these kind of beat up, kind of sneaker kind of tennis shoes. But he's been in jail, and they were put in a bag for 4 years, and then the toe of the shoe got bent over. And so for 4 years, it's been bent over like that. Then they took the bag out when he was released and gave it to him. And so those are the shoes that he wears. And Robert ended up doing the movie. I don't think it was simply because of my answer, but the answer didn't hurt.
No, it's a good answer.
Well, I think that's it, everybody.